an ocean quahog, Arctica islandica. It lives to be quite large, yay big, bigger than a baseball. Oldest specimen that we found out there, as of yesterday, was a little over 300 years old. This lives in the cold water. Inshore of that, in warmer water, there's a surf clam. Now, the surf clam is probably the biggest clam in the world that doesn't have a symbiotic bacteria in it, and it grows up to 180, 190 millimeters long, about 8 to 9 inches for a really big one.
So the two fisheries have been managed under the same regulatory scenario for a really long time. Effectively no illegal harvesting, effectively no bycatch problems. It's one of the cleanest fisheries in the U.S. It's one that has never been overfished. It's one that overfishing has never been shown to occur, so it's highly well managed.
Surf clams are highly valued. The catch per unit effort is much less than an ocean quahog.
The regulation that exists now is that only one species can be landed at the same time. The problem is that the surf clams don't know anything about that. Since the late 1970s, its range has been shifting north and offshore.
The clams are very sensitive to water temperatures. When they spawn, the spat will set in an area that's conducive to their survival and their growth.
We had previously been working off of Maryland, late 70s, early 80s. And we found a couple of spots where we had to pick them out.
Not every processor is set up to handle both species of clams. But the real reason that commingling is an issue is because of our fisheries management plan, which only allows us to harvest and bring in one species at a time.
Now, historically, that wasn't a problem.
One of these is a warm water species, the other one's a cold water species, and at least over the time that these have been fished, they've been separated quite clearly.
The problem is the warming of the Northwest Atlantic. It's a body of water that's warming up faster than most of the world's oceans,
where you see extraordinary differences in bottom temperature over very short distances.
With the rapid increase in bottom water temperatures over the last decade, the surf clam has moved offshore and begun to recruit in regions that are now occupied by ocean quahogs.
It had been pretty apparent to me and quite a few people in the industry that this was occurring and it was only going to get worse.
The area of overlap is potentially getting larger and larger as the Middle Atlantic warms because one species is moving in, but the other one hasn't quite got the message and moved out yet.
The surf clam moves offshore faster than the ocean quahog. And the reason for this is that ocean quahogs are able to avoid warm summer water temperature by burrowing down in the sediment. So what you find now is that there are large areas where surf clams are relatively abundant in regions where ocean quahogs remain relatively abundant. And these regions cannot be fished now.
Today, they're mixing everywhere now.
This presents you with a problem because you're really only allowed to land one species at a time.
The regulation that exists now hasn't really kept up with the animals' response to climate change.
Off of Long Island now, Mauritius Inlet, I stopped there working the quahogs because the surf clams invaded it so hard we were picking out a good 8 or 10%.
The cages that you put the clams in on the boat are supposed to be 100% of one species.
It's a pain in the butt, but some of them absolutely need to work these areas to get the resource that they want. There's just about nothing close enough for them to work anything else.
Where are these species going to be in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Where am I going to home port my vessels? Where am I going to put my onshore facilities?
The reason for the cruise was to improve our documentation of the overlap of these two species.
First thing we needed to do was identify the scope of the problem.
National Marine Fisheries Service surveys this region. The survey, however, is designed to cover a very large region, most of which is not the region that's causing the problem.
I was really glad when Roger called me and told me that they were going to do a separate survey, and we were specifically going after this.
We have this wonderful working relationship with these industry partners who, for the last quarter century, have allowed us to work off their vessels, and we developed these marvelous working relationships with the captains and the crews, who understand what we're doing and are more than happy to participate and help us because they see the value of this in their futures as well.
We go right into the heart of it and we see what the numbers are.
We know that it's a problem. Let's map it. Let's see how big the area is.
I take them from station to station, wherever they want to go, and we make small tows.
And really dredge right through the heart of the issues.
And it was basically sort of a zigzag design. You start in sort of the southern area, inshore, where you know that you've only got surf clams, and then you traverse the area of mixing.
To offshore, where there were only ocean quahogs. And we took samples every approximately 5 meters depth. It's a 5-minute tow at approximately 3 knots.
The surf clam and the ocean quahog fisheries use different bar spacings. Turns out that on the pursuit you can set up both of these, and then you can in fact run them sequentially at each station. So you ask the question as a quahog fisherman and the question as a surf clam fisherman, and you can get data for both. These animals are sort of unusual because, rather like trees, they leave a complete record of their lifetime in their shells. Trees, you count rings. Shells, you can section them and count rings. And so you can build individual life histories of everything that you collect out there. So they basically sat around, recorded everything, and waited for people like Eric and myself and this wonderful group of students who we work with to go out and sort of try to dissect and find out what the story is.
Clams that were caught during that period of time are brought up on the deck, sorted by species. Size of each of the individuals is measured.
Document the area of overlap, see who is becoming more abundant, see who potentially is going away. Is there an abundance of small, mostly recently recruited species? Let's sort of go on an exploratory mission and try to document what's out there.
We found a lot of places where there were a lot of surf clams and ocean quahogs at the same place. We anticipated we were going to find that. One of the surprises, though, was just how extensive the overlap is now.
You're seeing quite an abundance in places of small animals, which suggests that it's recent recruitment and it's consistent recruitment.
So this is a major community shift on the continental shelf, and it's something that the management agencies in the fishery are going to have to get their arms around and deal with.
From a biologist's point of view, it's a very comprehensive data set that allows us to go back and ask this projection question. Can we do long-term projections as to where we think these species are going to be over time?
As bad as it is going to be much worse in 5 years, in my opinion. The challenge, both of the fishery and management, is to figure out how to revise the regulations so both of these species can be landed without, causing a problem with the inherent stability of the fishery and management.
So the information that we get is vitally important to us staying not only a sustainable fishery, but also a fishery in good stead with enforcement. Not every processor is set up to handle both species of clams. It's an issue segregating them in the plant.
It's my wish that they can get this squared away, rather swiftly and to everybody's benefit. The boys can keep on working. We can keep on doing what we're doing. Everybody's going to have to work together here to solve this problem.